You're sitting there, staring at the bills, the numbers in your bank account, the endless calls from collectors. And deep down in your chest, there's this fragile hope: maybe one day I'll win the lottery, and all of this will finally end. I know the weight of that thought. It feels like relief just to imagine that, with a winning ticket, every single problem could vanish in an instant. But let me tell you a hard truth, one that most people won't have the courage to say out loud: winning the lottery will not fix your life. Do you know why? Because the problem is not only the lack of money. The real problem is how you handle money, how you handle life, and how you handle your own choices. And this is where Stoicism enters the picture as the key you haven't tried yet. Stoicism teaches that happiness and freedom don't depend on luck, but on the discipline of the mind. A millionaire without self-control is still a slave to desires, to the fear of losing, to the opinions of others. In the same way, someone who lives in debt can still find peace and dignity, not because they win the lottery, but because they learn to govern their own life. Take a deep breath with me now. Close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself, what if you could never play the lottery again? If that path didn't exist, what other paths would you see? That's where your real freedom begins. Stoicism invites you to stop betting on chance and start betting on yourself. And I'm going to give you practical advice, not from a lucky ticket, but from the wisdom of men who lived more than 2,000 years ago, and whose words still inspire millions of people today. Stoicism and the journey out of debt. Have you ever felt that heavy pressure in your chest, that sensation of sinking in quicksand, when you look at your bills, your bank balance, or the endless pile of payment slips that keep stacking up month after month? It's suffocating. It steals your sleep, drains your energy, and sometimes convinces you there's no way out. But what if I told you there's an ancient philosophy, with more than 2,000 years of practice, capable of transforming the way you look at your finances, your debts, and your life choices? That philosophy is Stoicism. And even though it was born in ancient Greece, it remains strikingly relevant today, because it teaches us how to control what's within our power and accept what we cannot change. Even in hard situations like financial struggles or overwhelming debt, Stoicism reminds us that life is unpredictable and full of challenges. Zeno of Citium, its founder, lost everything in a shipwreck: wealth, business, status, and yet, he found in philosophy a compass for living. He shows us that we cannot control everything that happens outside of us, but we always have complete command over our attitudes, our choices, and our responses. Applied to finances, this means, you can't change the past. You can't control the economy, interest rates, or the behavior of creditors. But you can change your habits. You can change your discipline. You can change how you deal with money starting today. That is the power that turns debt into learning and hardship into personal growth. Stoicism and the journey out of debt. Have you ever felt that heavy pressure in your chest, that sensation of sinking in quicksand, when you look at your bills, your bank balance, or the endless pile of payment slips that keep stacking up month after month? It's suffocating. It steals your sleep, drains your energy, and sometimes convinces you there's no way out. But what if I told you there's an ancient philosophy, with more than 2,000 years of practice, capable of transforming the way you look at your finances, your debts, and your life choices? That philosophy is Stoicism. And even though it was born in ancient Greece, it remains strikingly relevant today, because it teaches us how to control what's within our power and accept what we cannot change. Even in hard situations like financial struggles or overwhelming debt, Stoicism reminds us that life is unpredictable and full of challenges. Zeno of Citium, its founder, lost everything in a shipwreck: wealth, business, status, and yet, he found in philosophy a compass for living. He shows us that we cannot control everything that happens outside of us, but we always have complete command over our attitudes, our choices, and our responses. Applied to finances, this means, you can't change the past. You can't control the economy, interest rates, or the behavior of creditors. But you can change your habits. You can change your discipline. You can change how you deal with money starting today. That is the power that turns debt into learning and hardship into personal growth. A new perspective. Picture someone who's hit rock bottom financially. They feel ashamed, anxious, overwhelmed. But when they apply Stoicism, something changes. They begin to see the situation with clarity, what depends on them, and what doesn't, the past. It can't be changed. Mistakes are done, and no amount of regret can rewrite them. But the present and the future, they're still wide open, ready to be shaped by conscious and consistent actions. This shift in perspective is the first Stoic victory, releasing the fear of what cannot be controlled, and focusing on what truly matters. Practical application, Stoicism for getting out of debt. Now let's get practical. How exactly can Stoicism help you break free from debt? How can you, day by day, make conscious decisions that not only lighten your financial burden but also strengthen your mind and your character? I'll walk you through 30 detailed actions, with examples and exercises, all rooted in Stoic principles and directly applicable to financial life. Each action is like a puzzle piece that builds a more organized, disciplined, and financially healthy life. Because here's the truth, when we look at debt, we often feel like it has power over us. But Stoicism reminds us, the real power lies inside our own mind. What you feel when you see a late bill doesn't have to dictate your actions. Every anxious thought, every sense of defeat can be reshaped into clarity, discipline, and rational decision-making. By applying Stoicism to your finances, you stop being a victim of circumstances and become the master of your own life. From here, we're going to explore these detailed actions, practical steps that show how, even in the middle of financial struggle, you can act with wisdom, courage, and discipline, the core pillars of Stoicism. And remember, this isn't just about cutting expenses or paying off debt. It's about transforming your mind, your habits, and your character. Each one of these actions is more than a money-saving tip. They are exercises in mental discipline, clarity, and self-control, fundamental for anyone who wants not only to get out of debt but to rebuild their financial life on solid ground. Stoicism doesn't promise a quick or magical solution. But it does teach us that every small conscious act adds up to enormous results over time. And when you apply these principles daily, you start noticing gradual changes, less anxiety, more organization, smarter decisions, and above all, a sense of control over your life, even when financial challenges seem impossible to overcome. My friend, I know what you are going through. The weight of debt feels like a mountain crushing your chest, suffocating your days and stealing the peace from your nights. You wake up thinking about bills, you go to sleep imagining numbers, and your mind never stops racing, searching for a way out. And in this desperation, a thought seems so tempting, almost like a light in the middle of so much darkness. If only I won the lottery, everything would be solved. I understand why you think that way. Who wouldn't want a sudden fortune to erase all problems at once? But let me tell you something with sincerity and care, the lottery is not the solution to your problems. The solution lies in you. In your ability to transform your relationship with money, with life, and with yourself. And for that, the greatest ally you can have is Stoicism. Think with me for a moment. If suddenly you won the lottery, billions in your account, what would change? Yes, debts would disappear in a blink. You could buy whatever you wanted, live in luxury, and finally rest. But let me ask you an uncomfortable question. How many stories have you heard of people who won the lottery and, after a few years, lost everything, ending up worse than before? Do you know why? Because they never solved the root of the problem. They received money without wisdom, wealth without self-mastery, abundance without balance. And that, my friend, is like giving fire to someone who doesn't know how to handle it, it only burns. Stoicism teaches us something powerful. Happiness and freedom don't come from what happens outside, but from what we cultivate inside. It is not money that makes you free, but wisdom in dealing with money. It is not abundance that guarantees peace, but your ability to control desires, impulses, and illusions. The Stoics, more than 2,000 years ago, already said, we cannot control what happens in the world, but we can always control how we react to the world. And this applies directly to your financial life. You see, debt is not just numbers on paper or red lines on the bank app. Debt is also a reflection of habits, choices, and many times, emotions we don't know how to control. How many times have you bought something not out of necessity, but to try to fill an emptiness. How many times have you spent to impress others, to show a worth that you didn't feel within yourself? How many times has anxiety led you to seek immediate relief, with purchases or pleasures, while leaving for tomorrow the heavy price of today's decisions? That's where Stoicism comes in, not as a cold or distant philosophy, but as a compass to guide your steps out of this maze. Instead of dreaming about the lottery, I invite you to dream about something bigger, a stable, free, conscious life, where your value is not measured by what you have, but by who you are. And for that, I will give you a path. A set of reflections and practices inspired by Stoicism, so that you can not only get out of debt, but never again fall into it. And wisdom, my friend, ties all this together. Wisdom is knowing that happiness does not come from the sudden miracle of winning the lottery, but from the slow and consistent construction of a new life. Wisdom is understanding that you cannot change the past, but you can completely transform the future with today's actions. Imagine with me a different scene. Instead of dreaming about the lottery, imagine yourself creating a plan. Cutting unnecessary expenses. Learning to say no. Increasing your knowledge about money management. Creating an emergency fund, even if it's small. Paying off one debt at a time, celebrating each victory, however small it may be. And little by little, like someone building a house brick by brick, you rebuild your financial freedom. This, yes, is true wealth. This, yes, is freedom. And do you know what's most powerful about this path? It doesn't depend on luck. It doesn't depend on the lottery ticket. It depends only on you, on your decisions, on your discipline, on your inner strength. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor philosopher, said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Apply this to your life. You have no power over the lottery numbers, but you have power over your habits, your attitudes, your way of seeing money and life. And that is much greater. I know that right now, you may feel that this process will take too long. That debts are too big. That you don't have the strength to start. But listen carefully, the same way you got into debt little by little, you will get out of it little by little. And each step will make you stronger, wiser, freer. The Stoics remind us, time is our greatest wealth, and wasting it on illusions like the lottery is throwing away the only resource we cannot recover. Instead of waiting for a miracle, create your miracle with daily action. My friend, you don't need luck. You need wisdom. You don't need a lottery ticket. You need discipline. You don't need to run away from reality. You need to face it with courage and serenity. That is Stoicism applied to life. And if you embrace this philosophy, not only will you get out of debt, but you will become someone unshakable, someone who finds peace even in adversity, someone who builds a value that no money in the world can buy. So stop waiting for chance to save you. Take the reins of your life with your own hands. And remember, the true fortune is not in the lottery, but in your ability to live with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. That is the path of Stoicism. That is the path to true freedom. 30 Stoic actions to get out of debt and rebuild your financial life. 1. Accept your situation without self-punishment. Stoicism teaches that reality must be accepted before it can be transformed. Denying your debts or excessively blaming yourself only increases suffering. Accept your situation as the starting point. Write down all debts, amounts, creditors, interest rates, and due dates. Acknowledging the truth without drama is the first step toward conscious action. 2. List all your debts, put everything on paper, from credit cards to utility bills, from loans to financing. Clarity is essential. For example, Maria, who had over $2,000 in debt, started by writing everything down. She didn't skip details. Seeing the full picture, she realized which debts could be negotiated and which needed immediate attention. 3. Set priorities. Not all debts have the same urgency. Use Stoic principles to decide. Focus your energy on what matters most. High-interest debts should be paid off first since they erode your wealth the fastest. 4. Create a Stoic budget, list all your income and expenses. Separate essentials from unnecessary spending. Use reason to decide where to cut. For example, John noticed he was spending $100 a month on coffee and snacks outside the home. Cutting that allowed him to allocate more money toward his debts. 5. Cut unnecessary expenses. This is a daily practice. Always ask yourself, is this essential or just a temporary desire? Reducing non-essentials isn't suffering, it's conscious discipline. Every dollar saved is a step closer to financial freedom. 6. Avoid impulse purchases. Stoicism teaches us to reflect before acting. Before buying something, wait 24 hours. Ask, do I really need this? Or am I just reacting to an impulse? This habit reduces unnecessary spending and builds financial security. 7. Plan a strategic repayment. Make an action plan. Start with debts that have the highest interest rates. This is rational and efficient. Imagine Peter, who had 3 credit cards with different interest rates. He began paying off the one with the highest rate. Result, he saved hundreds of dollars in just a few months. 8. Negotiate with creditors. Stoicism encourages courage and clarity. Contact your creditors honestly and calmly. Propose solutions, installments, or discounts. Often, negotiations reduce interest rates and create financial breathing room. 9. Build an emergency fund. Even small savings create security. A Stoic prepares for the unexpected. Having $100 to $200 set aside prevents new debts in case of sudden expenses, like car repairs or medical bills. 10. Set financial goals. Define clear, achievable objectives. Paying off a specific debt in 3 months, saving a set amount monthly. Realistic and measurable goals help you stay focused and motivated. 11. Practice daily Stoic meditation. Stoic meditation is a powerful tool for handling debt. Each morning or evening, spend a few minutes reflecting, what might happen today that's beyond my control? How can I respond rationally? This reduces anxiety and prepares the mind for conscious financial decisions. For instance, Clara, burdened with loans, began meditating daily. Instead of panicking, she calmly organized her payments and negotiated installments. 12. Control your emotions during setbacks. Unexpected bills, additional charges, or delays can trigger anger, fear, or anxiety. Stoicism teaches, it's not events that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. Take a deep breath, assess the situation, and act rationally. Instead of panicking, you keep clarity and make strategic decisions. 13. Write down lessons from each mistake. Every debt and every poorly planned expense is an opportunity for learning. A Stoic records these lessons, reflecting on how to avoid repeating mistakes. For example, a late payment might teach you the importance of automatic reminders or better scheduling. 14. Avoid comparisons with others. Social media, friends, and family can make you feel financially behind. Stoicism teaches, focus on your progress, not on others. Your worth and your financial freedom don't depend on comparison, but on discipline and conscious action. 15. Automate payments. Whenever possible, set up automatic payments. This prevents late fees, unnecessary interest, and stress. Discipline frees mental energy to focus on growth, learning, and future planning. 16. Review contracts and financial terms. Knowledge is power. Carefully read all contracts, understanding interest rates, deadlines, and conditions. Knowing exactly what you're signing prevents surprises and allows stronger negotiations. Stoicism values wisdom as the highest good, and financial literacy is a practical form of it. 17. Practice daily gratitude. Even with debt, acknowledging what you already have reduces anxiety and increases clarity. Gratitude strengthens the mind and shifts focus from problems to solutions. For example, you might be thankful for your health, your job, or family support. This Stoic habit lessens the emotional weight of debt. 18. Find extra sources of income. Stoicism values intelligent action. Look for ethical opportunities to earn extra money. Each small effort produces results and increases your sense of control over your financial life. 19. Avoid new debt, a simple but powerful rule: don't take on new debt while paying off the old ones. This requires discipline and patience. Every new debt is a step backward, every controlled expense is a step forward. Patience is a fundamental Stoic virtue, applied here to financial management. 20. Set clear boundaries, define financial limits with yourself, friends, and family. Know how much you can spend, lend, or invest without hurting your budget. Clear boundaries prevent impulsive decisions and help maintain control over your financial life. 21. Accept time as an ally. Today's world wants everything fast, paying off debt in a month, changing life in a week. But Stoicism reminds us that time is part of the process. Just as a field doesn't bear fruit overnight, getting out of debt requires patience. Accepting life's natural rhythm prevents frustration and strengthens discipline. 22. Live below your means. One of the most practical principles for getting out of debt is simple: spend less than you earn. But it's not just math, it's a Stoic mindset. It means freeing yourself from the desire to show off, from comparing with others, and from consumer illusions. A Stoic finds peace in sufficiency. 23. Reflect on impermanence. Debts aren't forever, just like joys and pains aren't either. When you see debt as a temporary part of life, you can deal with it without despair, staying focused on what you can do today to change it. 24. Turn hardship into training. Every financial challenge can be seen as training for your mind. Just as an athlete trains with weights, you train patience and courage by facing bills, cutting expenses, and negotiating. The obstacle becomes the way, as Marcus Aurelius would say. 25. Set healthy rewards. Stoicism doesn't preach a life without joy, but without excess. When you pay off a debt, allow yourself a small celebration, a simple outing, a homemade dinner, or a moment of leisure. These balanced rewards reinforce discipline without falling into consumerism. 26. Practice financial honesty. Admit your mistakes, talk openly with your family about your real situation, avoid lies. Stoicism values justice, and being fair with those you love includes being transparent about your finances. The truth may be harsh, but it liberates and strengthens bonds. 27. Keep a progress journal. Every Stoic writes. Marcus Aurelius had his meditations, Seneca his letters. Do the same with your finances. Record income, expenses, lessons, and achievements. This creates clarity and keeps your mind engaged in the process of growth. 28. Practice negative visualization. A Stoic prepares for losses before they happen. Imagine what you would do if you lost your job, faced an unexpected expense, or if something suddenly changed. This exercise strengthens resilience. When setbacks come, you're already mentally prepared. 29. Teach what you've learned. When you share your Stoic and financial practices with someone, a friend, partner, or even a child, you reinforce your own habits. Teaching is learning twice. Passing on this wisdom is part of leaving a legacy. 30. Redefine your relationship with money. Money should not be seen as an enemy nor as a god. It is simply a tool. Stoicism teaches that true value lies in character, courage, and wisdom. When you put money in its rightful place, as an instrument, not the end goal, debts stop being monsters and become just numbers to be organized.